Well, hello and a very good day to you. A very poor, very poor Watford Football Club today as Watford fall to defeat against a Luton Town side that were well up for this game. Watford FC get hammered 3-0 at Kenilworth Road. Luton Town 3, Watford nil. A very disappointing performance from Watford. We have our real troubles, don't we, on the road? We haven't won a road game in this league since the beginning of the season, just over 2 months ago, and our problems continue today with some very poor defending. Watford fans, welcome aboard here on this brand new edition of the YOU ORNS post match. It is great to see you all. Please hit the request button, have your say on Watford today as Luton Town just absolutely roasted us today. Omar here with you on this one, and we are calling and talking live from around the world, wherever you may be, Watford supporters, whether you're here in California where it's just after 6:30 in the morning, or whether you are in the UK coming live from Kenilworth Road, or whether you are anywhere else in the UK and beyond. It's great to have you aboard YOU ORNS post-match. Look, my quick thoughts on Watford today. We just did not show Luton that we were in the building. All of this talk in the middle of the week from Tom Cleverley that he'd had this team meeting and he'd showed these players, he told them what it was all about, what this derby meant, and how critical it was to announce ourselves that we are competing in the top six and all the rest of this. I mean, I'm very listen. I'm not blaming Clevs. I'm very wary of all the production. I know that the club has to do it to show us that they are up for the fight. I understand that, but we've got to prove it on the pitch at some point. The talking has to stop and the action has to start. And we did not act at all today. We were dreadful defending. We were awful. We never got into this game from the start. We were bullied by Luton. Hit the request button. Sahil has done that on X. Those of you on YouTube, bring your comments forward. Sahil is about to be put on the air here. And by the way, on YouTube, thank you, Brown Electrons. Sorry you had to get up to watch that tripe, Omar, says Brown Electrons. And thank you for that. I actually missed the first couple of minutes of the game, Brown, because I was still sleeping. So there you go. And then Brown Electron said, nobody showed up today. Yep, absolutely right, Brown. And I'm going to come to Sahil first on X, and then I'm going to go to Stuart afterwards. Caden's going to follow that. So we've got a full board of callers, and we're going to bring them up one by one. Sahil came up first. Sahil, welcome to this edition of the YOU ORNS post match. Hello there, Sahil.
Hello, mate. What that was absolutely shambolic. You know, we've had all that hype from the media team, social media team all week. You know, Cleverley's come out in his press conference. The players know, don't worry, I've given them the talk. The players know. And what the hell was that today then? What the hell was that? Constantly giving the ball away. I think we tested their keeper once or twice max. Who turned up today? No one turned up for the biggest game of the season. Not a single player turned up. I thought we were naive. Cleverley, for me, got it wrong. Tactics.
Oh, we lost you, Sahil. Lost you there. For some reason, I don't know if anybody else can hear you, Sahil, but I'm not able to hear you for some reason. Sahil, can you come back in? Because I'm not able to hear you, unfortunately. Sahil, please stand by. If I can just put you back off onto listener status, I'm going to take the next call after you. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what happened there, Sahil, but we've lost you.
Turn up.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Go on.
There was nothing today.
Can you repeat that? Because I've missed a bit of what you said, Sahil. I'm sorry.
I was saying that really, these fans that travel down today expecting something, they should all get a refund for the match ticket, for their coach journey ticket as well. Because you expect effort in a derby game. You expect the players to turn up, irregardless of form. You expect them to turn up. Look at Luton. They've had poor form this whole season, yet they turned up to play against their rivals. They turned up because this game cared for their fans. And for us, did our players turn up? Simply no. Not a single player stood out today. Not a single player put that effort in for me today. Backman, he's heavily strapped. He's not fit to play today. Why are you playing him? Bond's done all right last 2 games. You know, the players didn't want to pass the ball back to Backman because he can't kick the ball. Why is he playing? That's on Cleverley there. End of the day, Cleverley should have said, no, sorry, you're not fit. Bond is playing today. That's mistake number 1. The midfield, we got bossed today in that midfield. They were running rings around us today. And we were just poor all over. And the worst thing is, we've got Leeds on Tuesday away. again, that's gonna be embarrassing. That is. I thought we got it wrong today. Cleverly got it wrong for me today. And look, you're playing against your rivals. You expect effort, minimum effort, and there was a lack of that today for me. That was embarrassing, and the players should fully be ashamed themselves today. No one turned up to me, and I'm utterly pissed off with that performance. If we put in a performance, if we turned up, put some effort in, and we lost, fine. But when you turn up to a rival game against your hardcore rivals, you expect minimum effort, and there was nothing today. No one deserved praise after that. They should all be out from the club. Absolute shambles today.
Sahil, thank you very much indeed. Well said. And there's someone on YouTube who absolutely agrees with you. Brown Electrons on YouTube says the caller is 100% right. Sahil, you are very often in that category of being 100% right, and you nailed it today with your comments. Sahil, thank you very much indeed. Next up is, as promised, Stuart is next. Then it's Caden. Then it's Uncle Ron. Please hit the request button for the Watford supporters on this brand new edition of the You ORNS post-match. You're certainly doing that today after the worst display of the season. This is even worse than Preston. You know, this was even worse. We have not won an away game since the start of the season, and we absolutely deserve to be hammered today. Dan and Sahil's absolutely right about Daniel Batman. What was he doing out there? Absolute shambles today. Strapping around. Tom Cleverley can be too loyal to a fault sometimes, can't he? Clevs, I mean, look, you've heard the first time this season that some of the callers I've heard from Watford supporters are hanging this one on Clevs. But look, the bottom line is the players have got to perform as well, and they did not. Okay, it's next. It is Stuart, as promised. Stuart, you are next. I love Clev, says Brown Electrons on YouTube, but today he got it horribly wrong. No passion or desire in that team. Thank you, Browns on YouTube. Next, it is Stuart, as promised. Stuart, you're next. Then it's Caden. Then it's Uncle Ron. Then it is Reza. Step right up, please, on the You ORNS post-match here, live around the world with Watford fans everywhere. Stuart, you're next on You ORNS post-match. Hello there, Stuart. Hello, Stuart.
Can you hear me?
Hello there.
Oh, yeah. No, I have to agree with Sahil. To be honest, I mean, looking at the team, I think some of the selections were a surprise. I think Backman, to be fair, I think that 5-year contract that he was offered sort of however long ago, it seems an absolute nightmare sort of deal, you know, and to be honest, I don't think any fan looking back at that would disagree with that. I think looking at sort of some of the subs, I mean, to be honest, Jefferson just looks like a development signing. You know, goals would be great from him, but he's just, again, sort of lacking a lot of confidence. You know, Ebiseli and Barr, you know, could they have started? You know, I think a lot of the players look scared. A lot of passengers in that team, the midfielders, Sahil said, got overrun, and they just looked like they wanted the game a lot more, and we didn't look like we were up for it, to be honest. And we've conceded how many goals in the first 5 minutes? You know, what is it, 10 minutes that first goal went in, and I think a lot of Watford fans knew once that goal went in after 10 minutes, their fans were going to be right up for it, and they were up for it before the game had even started. So I'm frustrated with the media team because they gave it the whole big one before the game, and you have to do it and you have to back it up on the pitch. And if you don't do it on the pitch, then you look like absolute muppets.
Yeah, well said, Stuart. Well said indeed. I think you're absolutely right. I think that, yeah, there's always the over-egging it from the media team. I know that's what they've got to do. But my goodness me, these players did not rise to the occasion today. They were shambolic. And you know Rob Edwards is absolutely chirping now. Inside, he's got to be gloating to himself about this. He wanted this in the worst way. And he was a manager under pressure, as you know, and as everybody knows, not that we care, but he was an under pressure manager. They were awful, Luton, this season, but they turned out in their best numbers, didn't they, today in this one? An embarrassing pitch, a terrible ref, and a terrible Watford side. Thank you, Stuart, for your comments. Well, welcome aboard, and thank you. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Stuart there with his comments on Watford. Next, As promised, it's Caden, then it's going to be Uncle Ron, and then it's going to be Reza, in that order. We've got calls, we've got comments. Welcome aboard, Watford fans, on this brand new edition of You ORNS Post-Match. Omar here, live from San Francisco, California, where it is just after 6:40 in the morning. It is 2:20 in the afternoon in the United Kingdom, but my goodness, it could be midnight in the UK after this performance. Is it midnight for Watford after this horrible performance today? We've not won away from home since the beginning of the season at Millwall, the Millwall side that's been disgraceful as well. And here, as promised, is Caden. Hello there, Caden. Welcome aboard to You ORNS Post-Match.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I hope everyone's sane after that. I mean, wow, that was a waste of time. Daniel Bachmann, oh my God. This is why I said before the game it was a stupid game to have Bachmann in the team. Sissoko, how many times do you want to fucking lose the ball? I counted about 15 times. Kayembe, just awful. And then cleverly, his tactics today were poor. I mean, the pitch didn't help us, but come on. You have to adapt. No excuses after that. You have to back up the hype that the media team gave. And we didn't. It was awful. And the only player that I think can come out there with his head held relatively high, because he was probably man of the match, was Matty Pollock. The only one on the pitch that actually gave a shit. And maybe an argument for Tom Delibashiru, but the whole team, Jesus, that was bad. Not only was that the worst performance of the season, that was worse than Preston. And we know how bad we were there. I don't know what's much more to say. I think we're on the long road now. We're strapped in for the long road, and we have just got to put up with it. And I completely disagree with a tweet I saw earlier from Ron saying that Cleverley should be sacked for starting Bachmann. It was a bad decision, but sacking Tom Cleverley is a bit too far. But apart from that, I don't know what's much more to say about the game. Just absolutely awful. But thanks for having me on, mate.
Always, Caden. Thank you for your comments. As always, much appreciated indeed, Caden. Take care of yourself, mate. Thank you. Caden then with his comments after this one, a shambolic display by our Watford football team. This club that we love has let us down, and this team has let us down today. No energy, no fight, and I agree with what Caden just said there. Matty Pollock was really the only player on that pitch who seemed to give a damn. The rest of the players were still on the international break. The bottom line is, look, you can make any excuse you want, but as Caden said, there's really no excuses to be made about this shambolic performance. Georgie was awful. The lot was awful. He was right, was Caden, about Sissoko. He gave the ball away far too many times. He was to blame for one of those 3 goals. He lost his marker, and the ball went past him, and that was that. It's been a shambolic display today. We've had our pants pulled down today. Our trousers have been well and truly pulled down, and we've been exposed. And we have got to get this balance right away from home. Our away performances are really poor. It's just such a marked contrast to our fighting spirit that we show at the Vic. And when you go on the road, you cannot freeze like this. We were a deer in headlights today. We never announced to Luton that we were there. And that's my big problem with them. We were going to have Uncle Ron, but Uncle Ron has disappeared off the network. And we also were going to have another commenter who I think has also gone. But it is Dan that we will hear from next here on the You ORNS Post-Match. Before I get to you, Dan, if you would like to comment, please do. You were on the request, so hit the request button if you'd like to. But apparently he has also decided to leave. But I'm going to be reading some comments off of the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for that. Brown Electrons on YouTube says, Georgie, lost the ball far too often. He certainly did. Brown Electrons again with this one might have been Andrews' worst game as well. Yeah, there was a thing there, Brown, about Andrews. He made that long run on that right side in the second half, and then he just completely crossed the ball in and just went nowhere with it. I think he just completely lost it. We never had composure on this pitch today. I know the pitch was bad, but our composure was bad as well, and we never got a foothold in the game. Luton bossed us and bullied us, and they deserved the win. And you've got to wonder, in a match like this, a derby like this, Sahil talked about it earlier, where was the commitment? Where was it? We had no commitment today. It was a very, very poor performance. And as I say, the worst of the season, and Caden has also echoed that as well. Not enough mustard today from us. We didn't show any fight, and we got beat fair and square. You can't complain about that. Luton Town is their biggest win of the season, and obviously very, very happy for them. Of course, I'm not happy for them, but for them, it's a happy day. As for us, we have got lots of work to do. We are well off the pace. If we are going to challenge for top 6, we have to start showing that we've got something on the road to challenge with, because all we had today was absolutely nothing. And the bottom line is that we did not stand up to Luton at all. I'm sure Rod Edwards told them that they were going to bully us, that they were going to get on top, and that they had to do all those things. And then Tom Cleverley, whatever he told these players in the middle of the week, they obviously forgot, because there was no spirit about us today. We didn't really have a presence on that pitch. If you look at the statistics, here are the stats. I will read out the stats to you right now, because it really is, I think, as bad as advertised. I was really not expecting to see just how poor Watford were, but they showed you how poor they were. Here are the stats from this game. Oh my gosh. Match stats. Watford, by the way, had 58% of the possession, and they didn't do anything with it. 9 shots, only 1 shot on target the entire game. That was us. That was us. They had 5 shots and 13 shots and 5 on target. We only had 1 shot on target the whole game. 10 total touches in the box. Luton had 32. 32. Really, really poor stuff. Goalkeeper saves 2 for us. 4 corners to their 11. That's not good enough. We are well short of any top 6 of anything. We're one of the top 6. I tell you what, we're top 6 in for conceding goals fairly early in games. We're top 6 for conceding goals off set pieces, and we're top 6 for losing away from home, because we've now lost, I can count maybe 4. Is it 5 away games? Yeah. Obviously lost 5 away games. We've not lost any at home. We have got to turn around this away form, because if you look back, there is a pattern of this floundering away from home. Not good enough against Norwich. Remember the early kickoff there? We got smashed about, a 4-1 defeat. We got hammered today. We were not good against Sheffield United. We didn't play well there for much of that game. And we were lifeless at Preston. And now this is the worst performance of the season. Didn't give anything that was required for an occasion like this. And again, when you've got a massive derby against the team you cannot stand up the road, you cannot, under any circumstances, give a performance like this. I don't care about what the tactics were. And I agree with the callers who've come in. The tactics were absolute shite today. They really were. But the bottom line is that these Watford players have got to start fighting here away from home. There is a pattern. Tactics or no tactics, these players have got to announce that they are in the building. And they didn't lay a glove on Luton. They didn't do that at all. There was one tackle that Barr made. He lost the ball and he came back to try to get the ball back, and he left a mark on a Luton player. That is the only time I saw any real showing of letting the opposition know that we were in their building. And after that, there was no more of it. Barr gave you a little spark of something, but it really came generally in a game where Watford didn't turn up in the game. Michael on YouTube says this: Luton Town have the parachute payments from the Premier League, hence they can invest in better quality players. Well, let me tell you something, Michael. Luton Town, parachute payments or not, they played like they were in the Premier League again today. I mean, listen, we made it very easy for them, to be fair, but Luton Town deserved the victory. I've got no excuses to make about that. And of course, that lot will be chirping until the cows come home, and they should chirp because they had a very, very comfortable time of it today. We never made life uncomfortable for that Luton Town side, not once, from minute 1 to minute 99. Really, from minute 1 to 100, because I think it was 100 minutes. But by the time the game was over, a long, drawn-out 100 minutes, a referee who was terrible. But this is not on the referee. I don't care how bad the referee was, and he stunk. And so did that pitch. It's nothing to do with either of those two things. Watford just didn't get it right today. You can talk about the tactics. You can talk about the application, the effort. We just did not show up. And there is no excuse for that in these games. I don't care how many team talks you have. If you cannot show an effort out there so that us as fans at least can look back and say, well, they gave it a go, Luton were just a bit better, then you really do not deserve to be on the team. It's just inescapable and inexcusable that a Watford side can turn up like this in a massive game. And the games at Luton are always, to me, they even seem bigger than the ones we play against them at the Vic, because we want to go into that ramshackle building that they call the stadium and put it on them. And we've not beaten them there for a good few years now. I don't remember the last time that we won a game at Kenilworth Road at the Dog Kennel. And today, we certainly didn't deserve to score, let alone win. And you saw it before your own very eyes. We were very poor today. Daniel Jefferson did not show up in this game. Not really the cup of tea that I was expecting from him. He still has not scored, hasn't really got into the game at all. He had one moment where he tried to backheel the ball into the goal after a good run and crossed from bar. But really, we were not on this at all. It's not on Jefferson. This is on everybody. Daniel Backman was not ready for this game. I agree with a couple of the callers. I think it was Sahil and Caden who both said this. What on earth is Daniel Backman even doing starting this game? I just do not know for the life of me why Daniel Backman was instituted into the game. Unless Johnny Bond was injured, there was no reason at all to have Daniel Backman start a game like this. It really told, didn't it? When Daniel Backman was not kicking the ball well, and he's not a great distributor to begin with. But I'm now going to stop my little rant and rave, and I'm going to turn this over to Ryan, who has joined us on YOU ORNS post-match on X. You are on YouTube. Thank you very much as well for watching on YouTube as well. Before I do go to you, Ryan, hold on for just one moment, Ryan. Let me read out a couple more comments. Ryan's hold tight. I'll get to you, I promise, in about 10 seconds, 15 seconds from now. Watford, says Michael, are still in a higher position than Luton Town, and I still think they can make the playoff places rather than Luton Town, given Watford's home record. Thank you, Michael, for that comment. Brown Electron says Tom's ignorance show today, and he is talking as Brown on YouTube about Tom Cleverley. Tom Cleverley's ignorance show today, says Brown, need a very strong performance next week after this dross. Brown Electrons, thank you very much on YouTube watching. And finally, Michael says Rob Edwards psyched up his Luton Town team for today's opponents as he wanted revenge on Watford due to his sacking. Michael, thank you again on YouTube for your comments. Listen, Rob Edwards definitely wanted this one in the worst way, and he absolutely stuck it to us today with a 3-0 hammering. Absolutely ridiculous. Billy Hughes, by the way, says on YouTube, Luton played so dirty, says Billy. Watford did not play well, but it's hard when you're playing against what they did. Billy, thank you for your comments. And I'm going to go to Ryan now. Look, the bottom line is that Watford just didn't play well at all. Pitch bad, dirty Luton, whatever you want to say. Watford just weren't good enough today. The tactics as well. We've all talked about that. And Ryan's been patiently waiting. Ryan, welcome aboard the YOU ORNS post-match. Hello, Ryan. Hello.
Hello. How are we?
Hello there, Ryan.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, I do. I'm annoyed. Also, every single Watford fan, angry, really angry, frustrated, and yeah, what a fucking start to the weekend, eh?
Yeah, Ryan, this was really poor stuff. Obviously, we've all talked about how shambolic this was. You can talk about the social media team as well. I think it just gets exacerbated, doesn't it? I mean, I know the social media team has to do what it has to do. I understand that. It just exacerbates everything when the players do not rise to the occasion, Ryan.
Absolutely.
all week we've had these little videos and messages from the club, you know, we know what this means. And then even before the game today, you had that video of, like, I think it said something like, looking at the local sites, and it was also just a shithole, you know what I mean? I don't know if you've seen that one. And it's like, it's all right putting those videos out when you can back it up. And unfortunately, Watford being Watford, we can never back it up, especially up at that shithole. You know, Omar, you're like me. You're old enough to remember. How many times do we really go to Kenilworth Road and get something?
Yeah.
Hardly ever. Hardly ever. It's today was just a calamity. Everything today was wrong. I've been a big Tom Cleverley supporter. He massively got that wrong today in every single aspect. Everything was wrong today. The players weren't up for it. There was no fight. There was no commitment. The passing was poor. The team selection was completely strange, if you ask me. You touched on a minute ago that, you know, what the hell Batman was back in the team for. God only knows. I can't get why Batman would come back in such an important game. He's been out for 5 weeks. Baffling. Absolutely baffling. We all know that form goes out the window when it comes to a derby, especially a Watford Luton derby. And we treated it like, oh, we can just rock up and beat these clowns. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was watching, you know. The goals that we gave away, the first goal came from the second phase of the corner, which we didn't clear properly. We weren't marking it bad. We didn't then press one afterwards. The goal straight after half-time, again, they had a corner. They whipped it into the back post. And, you know, Morris was there completely unmarked. 45 seconds or a minute after half-time, and we can't even pick up our runners. It's, yeah, we got completely outclassed today in every single aspect. Every aspect. Just angry, just really annoyed. I said to you, how many times I said to you before, no one wants to see Watford lose. I don't mind losing if we lose in the right way and we just lose to a better team and you go for hands up, there's nothing we could do. But today, Luton weren't exactly a great team, but they were better than us. And what does that say?
Yeah, absolutely. A team that had only won twice prior to this game in the championship this season, and this is their biggest win. This for them, Ryan, is worth 3 victories for Luton Town. This win they had today is worth 3 wins. It really is.
Yeah, I agree with you. This could easily kickstart their season, which, you know, again, I'm not something that we seem to like to do. You know, there got to be questions, and very, very quickly questions on why our away form is and it is dreadful. It's embarrassing, our away form. It really is, and that's got to be a mentality thing again. Mentality in Watford, it's got to be, because there's no reason why our away form is so bad.
Yeah, and what's troubling, Ryan, is that our away form last season was a whole lot better, at least from the kind of middle of the season onwards, around from the time after we got beat by Sunderland in that very poor 2-0 loss that we had, and Val Ishmael kept the team for an hour and a half after the end of the game. From that point on, our away form was quite good. We were quite good away from home last season from that point on. But we've now reverted back to the time before that around that Sunderland game, where we just don't turn up away from home at all. We play that Sunderland match every time we're away from home this season, with the exception of we won the Millwall game, and the City game in the Carabao Cup we were halfway competent in. Outside of that, we have played that Sunderland game from last season over and over again away from home, whether it be Preston, whether it be Norwich, whether it be the game at Sheffield United, or whether it be the game today where we just were absolutely flat out embarrassing. We were playing League One, League Two football out there today.
Don't
celebrate too much, Omar, because we got quite an easy game, away to Leeds on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. Knowing this lot, we'll get the win, won't we? I didn't predict this game today, Ryan, because I woke up too late. I woke up 5 minutes into the game, and I would have normally predicted this, but geez, blimey, 3-0? Good heavens.
I knew today was going to be hard. I've said all week, everyone's like, oh, yeah, we're going to win. I'm like, also, I hope I don't, I'm too long in the tooth. I've seen it, since the 80s where we just struggle against the twats. But I never expected to perform it. I at least expected to be some passion, some fight in the players today. But not even that for bloody Derby is disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
Yep, it is, Ryan. Thank you very much indeed for your comments as always. Thank you.
No worries, buddy. Take care. And try your best to have some sort of decent weekend. I know this has put a massive fucking bloody brown stain on it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll see what happens, mate. Thank you, mate. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, buddy.
Thanks.
Bye, mate.
Cheers. Bye. That was Ryan there giving his thoughts about, again, this absolutely pitiful performance from Watford today. We just weren't on it. We didn't show up. I'm going to read out your comments there on YouTube. One more from Brown Electrons. He says, this was up there with the Preston defeat. I still think the Deepdale spanking was worse, but today was definitely up there as a close second. Brown Electrons, thank you for your comments on YouTube. Listen, I think both of these performances, I would agree. I think this one was worse only because of the fact that it was a derby. I think that only because Luton Town are a team, again, like Preston, and Preston were in an even worse position than Luton were. So maybe I think Brown, I can understand where Brown is coming from on that. But I think this is worse only because of the fact that you play a team like this and it's a derby match and you just don't turn up at all. I think it makes it worse. And the way that Luton easily dispatched of us makes it worse. And also the fact that we just did not have any commitment to the simple fundamentals of the game, which has been a pattern, as Ryan has pointed out, as I've pointed out, and others have pointed out today. We just did not apply ourselves with the necessary application that you need. We never got into this game. We never worked our way around that awful pitch. And the referee, who was terrible, look, the bottom line is that the referee could be the worst ever, but it doesn't matter. Our performance was one of the worst I've seen in a long time. A team that lacks confidence, a team that doesn't have anything to hold its hat on. You can't hold your... There's nothing from that performance today that you can say, okay, well, at least there's this silver lining. Nothing. And that's been the case all season long away from home in the Championship. We've just not turned up in these games. The game against Millwall, to me, was an absolute aberration, quite frankly, because we have not turned up since on any of these away grounds in the Championship. And if you want to be in the top six, Mr. Cleverly, your team has to perform much better than this away from home. That is all on this edition of You ORNS Post-Match on X. I do want to thank you, for those of you on X, for joining. Really appreciate it. Your comments and your listening and your comments in the chat. Always appreciated. Thank you very much indeed for that. Look, the bottom line is that this is just not good enough, is it? I'm going to continue on YouTube and go to Instagram next. But I do want to thank you again on X. Thank you so very much for your comments and for your participation and for listening on this brand new edition of You ORNS on X in the post-match. Thank you. And until Tuesday, oh my goodness me, we head to Elland Road against the Leeds side that will be laying in wait, I am sure. Until then, it's Omar saying, You ORNS. Take care on X and be well. Thank you again for those of you joining here on YouTube. We will continue as we go on to Instagram next. Of course, that is our next port of call with what we will continue to talk about, which is this Watford performance. Is there really that much to talk about, though, as far as Watford Football Club are concerned? We have been so bad today, but your comments are continued to be welcomed. And I have to say, as I get set up here for the Instagram feed, we just have to do better than what we've done. We cannot be considered proper competitors in this league if we are not doing the business away from home. And we're not even giving good performances away from home. I mean, if you look at the game that we actually won against Millwall, we didn't play that well for much of that game either. And Millwall had us on our heels for several patches of that game. So, I question even how well we played in that game. So we have a lot of work to do. And we are now live on Instagram. Live. Welcome to this brand new edition of the You ORNS post match on Instagram. And we are live on YouTube. Thank you very much, Watford supporters, for coming in. Let's have your comments, shall we, on Instagram as well. We have them on YouTube. I'll continue to read those out. I want to thank you very much indeed for joining us here on You ORNS post match on both Instagram and on YouTube. After Luton Town absolutely embarrassed us today by a score of 3-0. It was a well-deserved win for Luton. They did exactly what they had to do, and we didn't do anything. And we just did not perform. We didn't compete. We didn't perform. We didn't let Luton know that we were in the building. We were absolutely shambolic in every department. A lot of the participants today on X have been talking, as you've been hearing this, saying that Tom Cleverley got the tactics really wrong today. And I do agree with that. But, even so, and I agree that Tom Cleverley did not get this right today. The team selection with Daniel Bachmann, that to me was the first sign of trouble when I woke up about 3 minutes into this game, because it was and I normally would get up on time for these 12:30 kickoffs, but here in California it was around 4:30 in the morning, and I normally am up, but I did not make it up for the first 5 minutes, and probably I didn't miss anything those first 5 minutes. But when I saw Daniel Bachmann in the Watford goal, I really was concerned about that. Daniel Bachmann, even though he was working his way back to fitness, just did not merit the start today. You can't have him in a game like this. You have to, and I don't care how hard he worked, you've got to let Jonathan Bond has earned the right to start that game. He's earned the right to do that. And I absolutely think that this has been a very, very poor showing from Cleverley to start the likes of Daniel Bachmann. Now, no, I don't agree with some of the comments I've heard on social media saying that Daniel Bachmann should be, Cleverley should be sacked. I don't think that makes any sense at all. I don't think that is something that should be done. I think that's ridiculous. All I'm saying is that Tom Cleverley should not have put Daniel Bachmann in this game. Mission Impossible, thank you for your comments on Instagram. You have said the following: we didn't play well in this game. Simple as that. Mission, thank you very much for your comment there on Instagram. You're absolutely right. I mean, we simply didn't. We did not do the fundamental things that would have given us any kind of look at some success at Luton Town. I think we just waited for things to happen today. Joe Larkin, thank you very much for joining us here on Instagram. I want to read your comments out. Morris for Luton says Brown Electrons is the kind of player we need in our team. Runs, bullies, and puts himself about. Thank you, Brown, for that comment. Meanwhile, on Instagram, Joe Larkin says, Omar, I don't have many words. Well, right there, that is 6 words from you, Joe. Thank you very much for those, but I completely understand what you're talking about. This really was a shambolic showing for Watford, and I think each and every player should be downright embarrassed and ashamed of that performance today, because it was completely substandard by every measure, and I think that there has to be a full accounting for this from Watford. And I think that when they have a quick turnaround on Tuesday, you're going to see a better performance. I guarantee you that. Watford are not going to lay an egg again on Tuesday night. I know that Leeds will be flying and they will play well, but Watford will not be as poor today as they were, as poor on Tuesday as they were today. I just don't see that. Baggers has joined us. Thank you, Baggers, on Instagram. Thank you for joining us there. On the coach, says Joe Larkin, home on 5%, so can't watch for long. Thank you, Joe, for your commitment, though. It's really appreciated, even though you're on the coach home from what was an embarrassing display from Watford. Lewis Honeysett, thank you for joining us on Instagram. We have to play better, says Mission Impossible. 100% there. Let me read out more of your YouTube comments Michael says, Omar, is the time difference where you are on the West Coast 8 hours? If so, well done for getting up so early to watch the match. Thank you very much, Michael, for that. And you are correct. The answer is yes. It is an 8-hour difference here in San Francisco, California, now just after 7 o'clock in the morning. I've probably woken a few of the neighbors, but then, that is what that is. But today, there was really not a lot of shouting from Watford fans in this game, whether you were here in San Francisco, California, or in New Zealand, or for that matter, at Kenilworth Road in Luton. And that really is that. So thank you very much indeed for your comment there, Michael. We have to play better, as Mission Impossible said. Keith Merriweather, thank you for joining us on Instagram. It's great to have you aboard there. We are live on both Instagram and on YouTube today, as we are in the Watford post match. And listen, there's not much post to post after this, because Watford were toast today after that 11th minute goal, and then they gave up a goal just after half time. I thought there was an opportunity for Watford to get back in this game, having been down 1-0 at the break. But whatever Tom Cleverley said at halftime just did not work, did it? Because literally less than 2 minutes into that second half, we conceded. We have now had a habit of conceding goals in the first 5 minutes of second halves. Now, we had that run of 5 consecutive games earlier in the season where we conceded in the first 5 minutes of the game. Now we're conceding in the first 5 minutes of the second half in a lot of these games. I think that's 3 or 4 in a row now where we've done that. So there we go. We have a problem on our hands with the second half starts of these games. I think we conceded one in the game against Middlesbrough before the break. And I think we've also conceded one in a couple of other games after halftime, the Preston game, I think, as well. So we really have not been good in these games away from home. And that is what Lewis has said on Instagram. Very poor, need to sort out our away form, says Lewis on Instagram. Lewis, yeah, I think that you're quite right. I was talking about this when we were doing this on X a little bit ago, Lewis, and I said that our away performances have had the same through line, the same commonality from the very start of the season, including the game that we won against Millwall. We weren't great in a lot of that game either. And as I was saying to one of the callers on Instagram, on YouTube, I'm sorry, earlier, is that we just do not play very well at all away from home. We play the same way that we play. If you remember the game against Sunderland last season, we were absolutely abject. We lost 2-0 in that game. We played that same Sunderland game in every away performance this season in the Championship, perhaps with the possible exception of Millwall. We played that same game from last season against Sunderland. We went up to Sunderland in the middle of the week and we were dreadful. Remember that? And Val Ishmael kept the team for a good 2 hours after the end of the game in the dressing room. We have played that same Sunderland game in every away performance this season in the Championship. We did that today. We did that against the likes of Preston, that we were awful in that game as well. Did the same thing against Norwich, did the same thing against Sheffield United. And now we've lost 5 away games now already. I think that's 5 consecutive away defeats. That is really troubling. And again, in these games, we keep giving up that first goal now, this time in the first 5 minutes of the second half. You've got to look at our psyche away from home. Why does this team continue to put poor performance after poor performance away from home? That is really now what we have to be looking at here, because we're not going to go anywhere this season if we continue to play like this away from home. I mean, that's just obvious to me. You do not need Sherlock Holmes to figure that out. You do not need anyone. You don't need anyone to figure that out, whether it's Luther, whether it's Nancy Drew, whether it's Colombo. I don't care who it is. It is very clear to me that there is something about the Watford psyche away from home in these games where we absolutely just do not turn up in these games. After everything that was said all week long, Tom Cleverley's meeting, they know what it means. They know what I'm expecting from them. We're here to announce ourselves as competing in the top 6. We announced that we were invisible. That's what we announced today. I don't think Luton Town even saw us on that pitch today because we weren't there. We didn't make ourselves seen. We didn't make ourselves a threat, not once in that game. And that is the absolute truth. Here we go with these games now. Gary, thank you very much. We need to sort out our away form, as Lewis said. Keith Merriweather, thank you, Keith. Didn't see the game due to work. Posty was surprised. He cleverly didn't react soon enough and made those changes at halftime, not 60 minutes. Yeah, Keith, thank you for that. That's another point that I need to make, and I'm glad that you made it, Keith, because nobody made this point on Instagram before you, and nobody made this point on either YouTube or on X either. But you are the first to make it, and that is that Cleverly didn't react well enough in this game. I know people talked about tactics, but Keith, I agree with you. Cleverly just didn't react, didn't make the changes soon enough. Your team was getting overrun, Tom. Your team was getting overrun. And he didn't make the changes quickly enough. This is the first time this season I can remember where Tom Cleverly did not react sufficiently enough in this particular game. The whole season, he's going to have one of those. But Keith, I agree. Thank you for your comment. You're absolutely right. The changes should have been made at halftime. If you're gonna, I don't know what Tom did at halftime in terms of what he said to the lads, but you've got to make them changes at halftime and start to put some bite into this team. I'm sorry, these changes late in the games don't really do anything. You've got to start these changes a lot sooner. And if we look now at what happened, if you look now at these lineups, if you look now at the changes were made at 65 minutes, 53 minutes rather. Barr came in 53 minutes. Why didn't he come on at halftime? Kayembe wasn't really that fit. He had an issue. They were monitoring it, and he started the game. But Barr came in the 53rd minute. Why not start him at 45? Why not start him at half? I agree, Keith. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I'm looking at this now. Before me, I see the change. The first was made 53 minutes. Barr came in for Kayembe. Ebosele came in for Sema at 65 minutes. I thought Sema was not the worst player on the pitch, but Ebosele came in. Then you had Jefferson came in also on 52 minutes. I'm sorry, was the first change in this game. I'm sorry. 52 minutes for Bio. Bio was invisible. Bio got a yellow card after 6 minutes. That shows you how bad he was today. But it wasn't really Bio's fault. It's the referee who loves to dole out yellow cards. This particular referee, well known for being card happy, and he didn't disappoint. Gave out 5 of them or 6 of them today, I think. 5 of them. 3 for Luton and 2 for us. But Bio getting a card after 6 minutes, that I think gives you every idea of what kind of day it was going to be for Watford. Jefferson was the first to come on, at 52 minutes. Then Barr came in at 53. And then you had Ebosele at 65. And then you had Ince and Vata coming in at 82 minutes apiece. I don't know why Tom Ince and Vata weren't brought in at halftime. I would have made a full-scale change. I would have brought in at least 3 players for the second half. I would have brought Barr in to come in immediately. I would have brought Jefferson in, and I would have probably brought Ebosele in as well. I think those 3 players should have come on at halftime. Ebosele come in there, Barr come in, and Jefferson come in right away. Now, Jefferson didn't do very much in the game, but if you want to freshen things up, start from the very beginning of the second half. I mean, and pardon me, I apologize. Let me just change up the system here on Instagram. I've come a bit too close to you here now on this, so just give me 1 second here, and let's see what we can do on Instagram. Well, goodness gracious me, everything's gone wrong here today. Sorry about that on Instagram. Everything's gone wrong here today. So you got a close-up here on Instagram. But it kind of sums up the day, doesn't it? It sums up the day here, probably as far as that is concerned. I see you now. I'm sorry about that. But I am a bit more of a close-up here on Instagram. It's been that kind of day. Listen, we have had a really poor showing today. I'm reading out your comments on both Instagram and on YouTube. Thank you very much, everybody, for that. Lewis Honeysett says, because we are unreal at home and then we go away and we are so bad. Gary Costa, not just a derby, but added to dreadful away records since opening day. Thank you, Gary. Danny has joined us. Thank you, Danny. If we continue to play like this, we are going to be really bad, says Mission. Change the system, says Gary, to a midfield 4, completely overwhelmed in the middle. Gary, yeah, absolutely. Today, we were not at it in the middle of the park. And, there have been 1 or 2 other games, Gary, where we have been lacking in the middle of the park. And I wonder if Tom is going to do what you have asked of him to do, because I think there is some kind of adjustment that needs to be made midfield, right? We got absolutely overwhelmed. I agree. Good comment there, Gary. Daryl Fernando has joined us. Hello, Daryl. Mission says, and the changes need to be made. Dan Atkins. Hello, Dan. Good to see you. Thank you very much for your comments as well. I know I'll be reading yours shortly. Mission, we're way too late on the changes. Thank you, Mission. Yep, we are. We have just not done it today. Tom Cleverley, this might be the first game that he got all wrong. On X, a lot of you on X, when you were on X, people on X today were saying that Tom Cleverley really, really got it wrong tactically. And I agree. And I'm sorry with the video on Instagram having a bit of an issue with it, but you can still see me just a bit too close for comfort, perhaps. But a close-up nonetheless. Watford need a close-up. They need to examine this game. And, in some ways, I'm going to keep reading your comments on both YouTube and on Instagram. But in some ways, for Watford, the only silver lining I can take out of this game is that we've got a game coming up in about 72 hours. And make of that what you will. And I know it's a trip to Elland Road, but is it at Elland Road? I think it is. I think it is a trip to Elland Road. Someone will correct me or confirm that for me in a few moments' time. But the bottom line is that Watford can flush this game out of their system and play better on Tuesday. I think they will do both of those things, but they've got to learn. And there has to be a correction of the way that we come out in these away games. We look like a completely different team. It does not look like the same group of players. And Tom Cleverley has a lot to do with that. He has got to get that balance right. And the players obviously have to take responsibility as well. But you've got to get the balance right. I mean, how can you be so good at home in a lot of these home performances and then just be invisible away? It's a pattern. It's not just this game. This has been going on since the start of the season. Not good enough. Was Robbo there on the bench? Yes, he was, Keith. Thank you for that. Should all be ashamed of themselves, says Dan. Dan Atkins, thank you for your comments on Instagram. We got bullied, says Dan. Absolutely did. Away. Yes, thank you for the confirmation of that, Dan Atkins. Yes, away at Leeds. Dreading it, says Dan Atkins on Instagram. Thank you, Dan, for your comments. I'm going to read out all your comments. Thank you, Michael, as well on YouTube for confirming the same, that it is an away game at Elland Road for us coming up this Tuesday. I think, again, the only silver lining for Watford is they've got to forget this performance. They've got to play better on Tuesday, obviously. I think if this was a game that they had not for another week, I think it could be a problem. But I think after this, can you really put Daniel Batman back in the goal for Tuesday? Tom Cleverley is very loyal, so I get that Tom Cleverley is probably going to put Daniel Batman back in. But you could see today that Daniel Batman was well off of it today. He should never have started this game. He really shouldn't have. I don't care that he worked himself back to fitness. You don't earn the right now to just get your place back. And I think that there's some pressure on Tom Cleverley perhaps to put Daniel Batman in there with that 5 or 6 year contract. Look, the bottom line is that Johnny Bond earned the right to start this game today. And unless Johnny Bond was injured, you don't put Daniel Batman in this game to start. You just don't put him in the game. Johnny Bond did a good job for us when he was in the goal for us. Was very good, much more confident, veteran goalkeeper. And to put Daniel Batman in a rough and tumble derby like this, not really a very sensible thing to do. Coming off injury, it really didn't make sense to me. And I had my eyes wide open. My eyes were wide open when I saw that. I tell you, I woke up 5 minutes into the game, which for me is uncharacteristic, even at the early hour here. And then to see Daniel Batman in the game, well, my eyes really opened wide at that. No reason for me why Daniel Batman should have ever started this game. No reason whatsoever. Leeds played us like we were puppets, says Mission Impossible. And Huey has joined us on Instagram as well. I'm going to read out the rest of your comments. Michael says, Omar, do you collaborate as other Watford content creators like the Watford Way podcast, who did a live watch along of today's match? And the content creator was scathing of Watford's performance today. I have occasionally, very, very, very few times, I have actually been on, not on a podcast, but been on a live post-match on social media. I do this every season, where at the end of the season, I do come on the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes post-match to give my thoughts about Watford over the entire season. But no, there hasn't been any collaboration otherwise, one way or the other, either from my end or the end of the other content creators, who all do a very good job. And look, I think it's good to do a live watch along. I think that's definitely a good thing to do. Unfortunately, this game was not the one, it turned out, obviously, to say much about in terms of a live watch along, because I think we got a lot more of the reactions from us, I would imagine, on that watch along, because it was really a poor watch, wasn't it, this game? It really was. Watford never had any energy in the game. They didn't have the bite. They didn't put themselves about in this game. And for a derby match, that's inexcusable. Harrison Allardyce has joined us. Thank you, Harrison, on Instagram. Great to see you. I know a little bit of problem with the camera. I was trying to get a further away look, but for some reason, wasn't. Oh, here we are. Hey. Okay, got it done. That is what you should be seeing. Much, much better on the likes of everything here. A much better, much more full background here on Instagram. So we are back on Instagram and properly on Instagram. And we are back live, of course, on YouTube as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel. Please do that now if you haven't already done so. We'll go for about 5 or 6 more minutes here before saying goodbye on this edition of the You ORNS post-match, as Luton Town thoroughly dominated the game and easily pushed aside Watford by a score of 3-0 at the Dog Kennel today. And Luton Town, with their biggest win of the season, certainly this is worth 9 points to Luton Town. This kind of a win is worth 3 wins for them. You saw it in the crowd. You know how much it means to them. But it didn't mean anything to our players today in this game. It didn't seem to, because they didn't play like it meant anything. Perhaps the only 2 players I can think of who put in any kind of effort at all, Matty Pollock is one of them. And I thought Quadro Bar gave you a little bit of something. But other than those 2, listen, the whole team was awful today. Daniel Batman should not have been out on that pitch. I just don't see where he should have been anywhere on that pitch. There's no way he should be starting a game like this. You've just coming back into the side. And I get it, trial by fire. I understand that. I don't know if that was the manager's thinking. But for me, you cannot put Daniel Batman in this game straight away. Johnny Bond earns the right. He's earned the right to start this game. And unfortunately, the manager did not see it my way. Now, I'll read out more of your comments. I'm afraid Bio and Jebs haven't put themselves about. That's Brown Electrons on YouTube. He was talking about Clayton Morris, or excuse me, Clinton Morris, I think, is the name of the player. Oh, Carlton Morris. He's talking about Carlton Morris for Luton Town, the kind of player we need in our team. Yeah, Carlton Morris puts himself about. He always has. And these Watford players can learn from him. These Watford strikers, I should say, should learn from him. They can. They had a front row seat to it today, didn't they? You know, they saw what happened. Unmarked at the back post. You saw that. It's happened over and over again this season, Brown. We've seen this a million times, where Watford players fall asleep at the wheel. How many times have we seen that easy back post header with no marking, uncontested, not good enough, not going to get the job done? If we're thinking top 6, we could be thinking top 600 at the moment, because we are not getting it done in these away games. Max, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Max, for coming on board on Instagram. More of your comments will be read out here on both YouTube and Instagram. We'll go for a couple more minutes to the bottom of the hour, almost at the end of really what has been a nightmarish Watford performance. A game that Watford really had no right to score in. They didn't score, and they certainly did not turn up A game like this, I don't care that it's a 12:30 kickoff. I don't want to hear the excuses from anybody about that. I don't want to hear the excuses about it being after the international break. The bottom line is that Watford did not do nearly enough to deserve anything out of this game, and Luton Town were laying in wait. Luton Town was laying in wait, ready to play this football match today, and Watford was still on the coach from Hertfordshire. That's where they were. Watford was still boarding the coach in this game, and that's really where Watford were. No one put a foot right in this game. Even though I talked about Matty Pollock showing you a little bit of something, and bottom line is it was too little, and it wasn't enough from anyone. And Max on Instagram, thank you, Max, for this comment. Max says this on Instagram: that was horrible. Not one player showed any desire. Thank you very much, Max, for your comment. 100% agree with you, Max. This team showed no heart, no desire, no spirit. We got outplayed, outfought, and outfoxed today at the Kenny, the dog kennel. Absolutely right. We were eating dog food out there because that is what happened to us today. We were made to be as poor as we were. And look, it was our doing and Luton's doing. Luton deserved the win. It pains me to say that, but they did deserve it. They were flat out better in every department. They had fight. They had spirit. They were up for the game. We knew that they would be. The players knew that from Watford, that Luton would be up for this. And we just didn't match anything that Luton did. No desire, as Max said on Instagram. Max, thank you for the comment. You're absolutely right. Max is correct. No desire, no heart, no soul, nothing. And you get nothing. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. And as Max said, no desire whatsoever. What do you expect in a game like that? No heart, no showing, nothing. We didn't put fear into their defense. Not once did we show anything against that Luton defense. We didn't put them under pressure. We didn't intimidate them. We didn't get balls in the box. We didn't have any real desire out there, as Max keeps talking about there. I keep repeating what Max says, and Max is correct. We didn't show any fight, no hunger, no anything. And that's the thing that really ticks you off at the end of the day. In fact, more than us even losing that game today was the fact that what really ticks me off is not the loss so much, obviously the loss, but the lack of desire, the lack of fight for a derby match. You got to throw everything out the window when you come into a derby match. As one of the callers on X said earlier, you have to throw out all the form book. You can't predict Watford are going to win a game like this. You know that it's going to be a tricky affair. When was the last time Watford won at the dog kennel? We've not won there for years. And so I didn't make a prediction before this match. And anyway, as I said before, I was sleeping. I missed the first 5 minutes because I did not wake up early enough, and I normally do. But my goodness me, this was absolutely poor. I think this is the worst performance of the season. I know people say Preston, and I understand that because it was the worst performance, but previous to this game. But I think this is worse because of the fact that it's a derby, because of what was on the line, because of the fact that Watford were so up for the game. They said in the middle of the week, Tom Cleverley told us that he told them what this derby means. He told his players what it was about. And I know people are criticizing the social media team at Watford. I think there's a lot of that going on today across social media, criticizing the Watford social media team for putting out all of the comments and things that they did before the start of this match in the middle of the week, building up the match, bigging it up, bigging up Watford. Listen, you expect the social media team at Watford Football Club to do that. I don't really have any fault in that. I know a lot of Watford fans have a different view of that than I do. But what I think really sticks in my craw is that whether the social media team did something or didn't do something during the week to hype up the game, it's the Watford players and it's the Watford manager who have to take a hit here. Cleverley has been walking on water pretty much since he's come into the building. And this, for me, is the first time I think he got the tactics well off the board wrong. A lot of other Watford fans have said the same thing. And I do think the tactics were a reason. But I'm sorry, tactics or not, the players have to perform. Whether the tactics were wrong or not, the players have to perform their roles in those tactics. And if the tactics are wrong, I understand that, but the players still have to fight. They still have to fight. And one thing I will say about Cleverley, with the tactics being wrong, is that he didn't react well enough in the game. In fact, that's my bigger criticism of the manager today. He didn't react well enough in this game, didn't make the subs early enough in this game, and it was really, really poor. We just had Paul Robinson come back to us, right? The Watford-born legend of Watford, Paul Robinson, come back to us, right? Robbo. And he didn't have an effect in this game either, you know, as one of the coaches. I tell you, back in his day, if he was playing in this game here, he would have absolutely roasted a number of them Watford players. He would have given a team talk before the start of the second half, Paul Robinson, because that's the kind of player he was at Watford. John O'Shea has joined us. Thank you, John. Just a couple more minutes before we really get going. I know I said this several times, but John, thank you for your comment. Thank you for coming on board here on Instagram. We are live on Instagram and on YouTube today. We did the X earlier post-match on You ORNS WFC on X, as well as here on Instagram, and of course the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel. And thank you very much for your comments everywhere across the board today. I'm going to read out your comments. If they are both 100% fit, says Brown Electrons, this is about the goalkeeper. If they are both 100% fit, I pick Bachmann any day. That is Brown Electrons talking about Bachmann versus Bond. I say Bond, Johnny Bond. That's my response to Brown Electrons. But Brown continues on. But the problem is he didn't look fit, and his kicking was so bad. Brown Electrons, I agree with you on that. Daniel Bachmann's kicking was awful today. I mentioned this earlier today on the X broadcast. Just not good. Distribution poor, kicking poor. You can't put Bachmann in a game like this. And Brown has given you his view about who he'd rather have, Bond or Bachmann. And as I said, for me, Bond, Johnny Bond. That is my answer for that. Anyone else on Bachmann versus Bond, by the way? Do you prefer Daniel Bachmann in goal, or do you prefer Johnny Bond? If both are 100% fit, who do you choose? I would love to hear from you on that in the waning minutes of the post-match here on You ORNS WFC on both Instagram and YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us here on this one after Luton Town 3, Watford 0. By the way, Brown Electrons adds, I expected Cleverley and Robbo to fire them up at halftime, but oh man, we got even worse. That's a really good assessment from Brown on YouTube. We did. We got worse. We got absolutely worse. And it's very rare that a team's performance gets even worse after the very poor first half and after halftime. For a team to actually decline from that tells you a lot about Watford away from home. We have not distinguished ourselves well in any of these away games. You know, if you look back at every away game we've played, whether it's cup or league, the only game I think we really actually distinguished ourselves in terms of character and in terms of the way we played, was at Manchester City. Of all the games, you would have thought, right, that we would have got blown away at the Etihad. But I thought, and I still think, our best away performance this season came at Manchester City, especially in that second half where we kept them scoreless. We shut them out in their building in the second half of the game and actually came within a couple of minutes of forcing penalties. I mean, that's our best away performance of the season. And we still got beat. We still got knocked out the cup. Max on Instagram says, I don't know why we kept playing the long ball in the first half. It never worked. Yeah, that's another thing that nobody else has addressed. Max, thank you for that. Max on Instagram points this out. We kept playing that same long ball over and over. It never worked. And Max, I don't know why they did this, Max. I don't know if Tom Cleverley looked at that pitch, because that pitch was absolutely god awful, pardon my French, for those of you who are more of a religious persuasion. And as a Christian, I'm not very religious, but I am definitely conscious that there might be people who are. But the point is that, Max, I don't know if Tom Cleverley looked at the pitch and thought that that was going to be the order of the day on a pitch that was disgraceful. We know that this pitch was awful. It always is. But I don't think I can even give an excuse, Max, for why that long ball kept going like that. It just never worked. The players didn't come to grips with that. That ball was easily repelled by Luton defenders. So I am at a loss as well, Max, like you are, why that long ball got played. Thank you for bringing that up, because that's right. Max is absolutely right. That was a pattern that had been going on over and over and over again. And at some point in the first half, I'm sorry, you've got to stop that method of play. It's not working. The defenders were easily dealing with that. And I mean, you got big strapping defenders there at Luton. They just sucked that up and just dealt with it and said, thank you very much. Yeah, I don't get it, Max. I'm with you. I'm very, very bewildered by Tom Cleverley's tactics today. Definitely part of the reason was Tom Cleverley and the tactics, but the other reason, that lineup was poor with Backman in goal. It should never have happened. And the players just didn't turn up after the international break. I guess they were still on their international breaks today. But look, no excuse for that. Every other team in the league were on international break. Georgie has become a one-note player. I'm sorry, I hate to say that about Georgie because he is so good, but Georgie has been poor. I'm going to read out what Brown Electrons has to say about him on YouTube in just a moment. But Georgie, to me today, was all over the place, looked tired, looked like he wasn't involved at all. He had a few of those trademark runs, but didn't really amount to anything. It was just profoundly poor from Georgie. Of course, he's not the only one, but he just did not make an impact in this game. Thank you, Joe, for coming in as well. We're going to do, I promise, it will be 5 more minutes, and then I really do have to move on and move on with the rest of what will be hopefully a better day here in San Francisco. Can it get worse than this from a Watford perspective? I mean, this was dreadful today. Absolutely frightful football from our club today. Our team, our men's team, did not put themselves about today. And Brown Electrons, on the subject of Georgie, says the following. Also, Georgie needs to get some stick. Love him, but sometimes he's just a headless chicken running at bodies. Passing has to be way better. Anyway, bring on Tuesday. Brown Electrons, thank you. That is the comment of the day from these forums. I do announce every now and again a comment of the day from a Watford supporter. Sometimes it's an Instagram comment. Sometimes it's a YouTube comment. Sometimes it's a caller on X. But today it is on YouTube, and Brown Electrons is the comment of the day. Watford FC comment of the day from YouTube on the YOU ORNS post-match. He has the comment of the day here. And I think we're going to end with what Brown Electron said. I'm going to read it out one more time for those of you who may not have heard it. Also, Georgie needs to get some stick, says Brown Electrons on YouTube. Love him, but sometimes he's just a headless chicken running at bodies. Passing has to be way better. Anyway, bring on Tuesday. That is the kind of comment I'm going to leave for the end of this edition of the YOU ORNS post-match. Why? A mix of absolute forthright criticism and constructive criticism and optimism. Bring on Tuesday. That is what Brown Electrons has left us, and I think that's all we can do at this point. A great comment of the day, the YOU ORNS YouTube comment of the day, the YOU ORNS post-match comment of the day belongs to Brown Electrons. Brown, thank you very much for the comment. Really appreciate that. That is where we're going to leave it, by the way, on this brand new edition of the YOU ORNS post-match on Instagram and on YouTube, and of course on X earlier. I do want to thank each and every one of you who watched or participated with your comments, with your opinions about today. A very, very bad Watford performance. There will be an inquiry and the steward's inquiry, surely, on where this Watford side were today. Where were they? Were they still in Hertfordshire? Were they still on international break? Or were they still on the coach somewhere between Watford and the dog kennel? Final score again today, Luton Town 3, Watford 0. We will see you again on Tuesday. We'll do a YOU ORNS post-match, no pre-match, but we'll do a YOU ORNS post-match here on Instagram, on X, and of course here on YouTube. Thank you everybody for joining. Like the video, please. and also subscribe here to You ORNS WFC on YouTube. Really appreciate that. Thank you for those of you who've done so. And of course, same for you on Instagram as well. Please make sure that you absolutely like the video here on Instagram, and of course, follow along on Instagram at You ORNS WFC. For those of you watching, thank you so very much. Thank you very kindly for your support and your comments. Always very much appreciated seeing you here on You ORNS WFC post-match and pre-match, which we didn't have today. My apologies. I was still sleeping, and I really normally don't do that at that time of morning, but unfortunately today, maybe I should have stayed in and slept for the entire match, because there was nothing at all to see here. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much indeed. I'm Omar, and until Tuesday, take care, Watford fans. And until then, yours. Take care, everybody, and have a good rest of your weekend.